What up, casuals? Xeno Warrior Princess here with a full guide on how to do all 8 challenge modes on gold in Warlords of Draenor as a warrior. In this introduction I'll go through all the basics and then you can watch the guide for each specific dungeon later on. I've done all fastest challenge mode times in the end of Mist of Pandaria, and so far I've done 7 out of 8 fastest times in Warlords of Draenor as a hunter, and on my warrior I've done 1 fastest time in Warlords of Draenor. I'm definitely not the best warrior out there, but this guide should help anyone that wants to get those big ass weapons. So let's go. First off, the rules in challenge modes are pretty much the same as in Mist of Pandaria. You can swap spec, but you can't re-spec. So that means no changing talents or glyphs when the time has started. You can battle rest in combat, and you can also normal rest outside combat, but you can't mass rest with the guild perk. You can pop heroism, time or bloodlust, and get the 10-minute debuff, and then you can die and get resurrected and pop it again for yourself. If you don't have a class with heroism, time warp or bloodlust, you can use the leatherworking drums, called drums of fury, but those are 5%. They give 5% less haste. You can try as many times as you want by resetting the instance. There's a handy macro to do it, so you don't have to click it. /script reset challenge mode. All cooldowns will be reset when you reset the instance that are above 3 minutes. Everything under 3 minutes, you'll just have to wait. Hopefully Busy will fix it sometimes, because when you pop all your cooldowns and the smaller ones don't get reset, it's quite annoying. Anyway, onto the gear. All gear is scaled down to 630, and gear under 630 stays at its item level. For warriors, best stat is more or less, well, definitely crit. You want to stack crit. And the second stat should be mastery, especially because of the 5% passive buff you get from weapon mastery here. I'm not a Fury crafter, so I'm not sure what exactly the best in slot gear is, but your trinkets matter a lot, proc trinkets. I'm using the PvP one that procs strength, and the one from High Mall that procs crit. Those two are really good for your Bladestorm. Sockets don't count in gear, unlike in Mist of Pandaria. Enchants do count, but there aren't that many enchants anymore. So enchant your neck, rings, and cloak, and your weapon. Your weapon is the most important enchant. Also, the alchemy trinket is a really good one. It's only 620 item level, but the proc is a lot of strength. Yeah, it's a lot of strength. For the preparations, what you need to bring to a challenge mode, you need to bring a greater flask. You need to bring your strength potions, and most importantly is to know when to pop this. You never want to pot your potion in combat, always before combat, because when you pop a potion before, the 1 minute cooldown starts ticking immediately, and if you pop it in combat, then you have to wait until combat is over before the cooldown starts. Most fights shouldn't even last a minute, apart from the bosses, so you can always pot again on the next pull. It's even better to wait sometimes a few seconds so you can pre-pot and then go in, then potting in combat and then having to wait again afterwards. So never pot in combat, always pot before combat. Sometimes you will need invisibility potions. If you pop an invisibility potion, your next potion will have a 10-minute cooldown, so you basically can't pop any other potions anymore after you've done invisibility. So if you can avoid invisibility, you should always do it. But you will look at you can look at the next guides for each specific dungeon and see where you need invisibility. Also, Swab Blaster is a really handy item for a simple abuse we use in Skyreach, which we will see later on. Now, most importantly, the talents and the specs for a warrior. No doubt, as talents, you should have Ravager and Bladestone, because most TMs are all about AOL. Pretty much every challenge mode is about AoE. The more you can pull and survive, the faster it will go. Warriors are even the ultimate class for good AoE. The more you pull at once, the more you will stand out in DPS as a warrior. I'm pretty sure every DPS spec is good enough to do challenge mode on golds. So both Fury, arms as gladiator stance. You can probably do it as protection warrior as a tank too, but I haven't tried it yet. In this guide, I'll just be arms all the way. You should actually have a second spec for single target, so you can respec before the boss and do more single target. But I'm just arms throughout every instance all the way. And I know my damage is pretty shit as a boss, but the AoE on the trash makes up for it, so we easily get gold anyway. You can experiment with this or look up what's the best single target spec when your item level is only 630. Other than that, it's also very important to have a good AoE stun. Warriors bring Shockwave, which is kinda the best stun because of the short cooldown. Never pop it when there's no free targets. Only pop it when there's free targets, so the cooldown gets reduced. Communicate with your team. Don't get a billion stuns in the raid, so everyone overlaps it or pops the diminishing returns. If you have enough stuns or someone else does it, then just go for Dragon's Roar. Stormbolt is quite useless. And also, depending on which instance it is, either use Mass Spell, Reflection, or Vigilance for your tank. And Rage Regeneration is defensive, and then Warbringer as the first talent. Because an extra stun, the charge stun, doesn't diminish return with any other stun, so you can use it as extra interrupt. We're also going to use the Blitz glyph, so that your charge stuns an additional 2 targets, very handy. Most importantly is the Glyph of Root interruption. In some instances you can have it up almost the entire time because there's so much to interrupt. Communicate with your team, make sure that you always get the first interrupt. Whatever it is, just get it so you have this buff. It lasts for 20 seconds, which is quite a long time. And then the things you really need to interrupt, your other team members can do that. Last glyph can be many things, but I use the Glyph of Wind and Thunder. So your whirlwind, so it makes sure your whirlwind hits all the targets. They're not always that stacked. You don't always play with the DK that mass grips. Sometimes the mobs cost forever and then they stand quite far. But with this glyph, your whirlwind hits most of them. And you use whirlwind all the time anyway as a rage dump. Okie dokie, welcome to Skyreach, Challenge Mode Gold, Warrior Point of View, and the guide. What we're gonna do here is a very nice abuse with an item called Swap Blaster. As a warrior you can leap up on the urns behind the fence, and then you can use the item Swap Blaster from engineering to swap your position with your other team members. And then everyone can get there, and you can also summon with a Warlock Summoning Stone. Pretty nice abuse. They can fix it if they want. Doesn't matter much, but they haven't fixed it yet. So you just leap up like you saw, and then you can use a Swap Blaster item to swap your position. After everyone's in his position, you just ask for a summon or be ready to leap again. Start the instance, accept the summon, and then be ready to pre-pot. Pot before combat. You're gonna pull these pack with the boss, so you just charge, put rend on as many targets as you can, and just run. There will be a wall closing the path to the stair. Pop Time Warp. If your pre-potion's still up, your Rexstone, Sweeping Strikes, Ravager, pop everything. Make sure your main target is still the boss. Use Shockwave 2 or Dragon's Roar, whatever you expect. Kill the last one, and then just go single target on the boss. Nothing special boss, the same as Heroic. Put the one who gets focusing Iris. It's best to put that in the middle, so the edge is free. Nothing special on the boss. Just keep doing damage. Do not pot a second time. The boss should be dead quite fast thanks to heroism. So don't pot a second time, you're gonna need it on the next pack. the Raven separately. You can pull it with the pack. We pull the left pack, but we prefer to pull it separately because it's too much changes. Let it do the first charge because it can get knocked off. Sometimes it bugs a little bit and it charges away from the tank or somewhere you don't expect, then you get knocked off and you have to run back. Oh yeah, just single target this one, and then we're ready to pre-pot on the next pack. Okay, so bird is dead. We go up and pull the left pack. No CC, just stun, pre-pot, and you run in. DK will mass grip them all, and then we'll do shockwave, and then we'll try and put rend on 2 targets if you can. And then again, Ravager, Blade Storm with Seeping Strikes, and try and kill the Adept first. The Adept is the one who does all the heals. Adept of the Dawn, that pack. There's one more mob inside before the boss. Try and pull that fast too. And then we kill that one. Those who need to respec for single target, if you have it, single target spec, very handy here. Use it if you have it. And maybe even wait a few seconds before the boss. This boss is all about surviving the burst, so we just tank it in the middle and spread out, and everyone has their area to take. Anyone can take a beam, healer 2, tank 2, as long as you pop a defensive and burst is finished casting, okay? It's all about taking a beam. The beam itself doesn't do much damage, as long as you pop a defensive and burst is being casted. That's when you take a lot of damage. You take a beam and then later the boss will cast burst, and that's what you need to be ready for. Do burst, everyone has to pop a defensive. So swap to defensive stance, pop and rage regen or a Hellstone. One thing should be enough, either a rage regen or a Hellstone, or defensive stance with die by the sword. Do not stand on top of the tank. There is a frontal cleave called Smash. It's not big, but it does one-shot you. That's pretty much the fight. So pop a defensive on burst, defensive stance, die by the sword, in rage regen and Hellstone, and that's pretty much it. Next 2 packs are 2 birdies, 2 bird packs. If you have all the cooldowns, you can pull both, but we didn't have our cooldowns ready yet. So we just pulled 1 pack, and then we're gonna pull 1 bird pack and the last pack before the boss afterwards. As soon as they start targeting someone, they don't go for the tank anymore, but for the targeted person. So like now you might have to kite a little bit. As you will see, tank will even die. They do a lot of damage, so if you don't have cooldowns, you have to be really careful with this pack and just start kiting pretty early. Slow trap from a hunter is really handy here. Thunderclap and other slows. Good. Now we do have our AoE cooldowns, Ravager, also Army and Blade Storm. So we can just pull these 2 packs together. And they'll die pretty easy. Don't underestimate these packs. They're only birds, but they hit fuckloads. On the boss, we will have a Rexstorm ready, so that's good. Definitely pre-pot. The ads, we will just ignore them. We'll slow them, but we're not gonna kill them. It's too annoying, too difficult, too much waste of DPS. You can just slow them and stun them to keep them in place. Don't forget the quills to move behind the pillar. You can just heroic leap, and very important that the tank runs in a bit before the quills ends, or that boss will do Skyreach, which he will do when there's no one in melee range, and then everyone will pretty much die in under 3 seconds. So yeah. Although Queen's just heroically behind the pillar, and then dodge the solar flares as good as you can. Moving on to the last part of the dungeon. Now you can skip this part with a goblin glider. I might show that sometime, but it's only really if you're going for fastest times. But you can skip this whole part with a trick with the goblin glider. For some reason we can't see the wind when we did this. Don't know why, but yeah, just a bug. But yeah, normally, as you should know, there's a wind here that slows you down. That's why we're running so slow. You can blink, you can heroic leap. Yeah, everything, anything can help. Just make sure you don't get hit by the birds too many times. You can still die. Now there will be 3 very difficult packs. These are the most difficult packs in the entire instance. Maybe even out of all challenge modes, because they have so many different things. Anyway, again, it will be a pack with an Adept of the Dawn. Don't forget the pre-pot, Sweeping Strikes, Ravager Bladestorm, and Shockwave whenever you can. Most important ads is Adept of the Dawn and the Magnifier guy. He empowers an ad, and you need to make sure you interrupt that shit too. Well, you can't interrupt it, I mean, but you can stop it with a stun. So you need to do that shit. There will also be a Raven if it's that patrols around the next room. Since the ads are almost all dead, we pulled the Raven already. Make sure you are faced against the wall for the knockback. Now, for the next 2 packs, it's really important to communicate with your team. You're gonna need your biggest AoE, your biggest cooldowns on those 2 packs. But you don't want to pop all cooldowns. I mean, everyone should not pop all their cooldowns on one. You should spread it out. So, I'm gonna Rexstorm here, Recklessness Bladestorm, on this pack. The right one is actually the hardest one, the pack on the right. Definitely pre-pot. And then just Rexstorm and put Rent on as many targets as you can and try not to die. But there will be a lot of unavoidable damage. And then the Mage and the Warlock in this team, they will pop their big AoE on the next pack. We need to pull the next pack as well, otherwise we don't have enough enemies killed. And we will skip the ads at the very end with a little trick that you will see later. So yeah, just try not to die. Most important thing is just to keep rend up in the end, and then just stay alive, and then just execute to finish them off. It's pretty easy to get an interrupt here. Just interrupt first cast you see to keep your root interruption. Now go to the last pack, where the Warlock and the Mage will pop their cooldowns. As you can see, mine are almost ready, but not Recklessness anymore. You want to kill the Solar Familiar first, because when he dies, it heals the whole pack. And there is also a spell called Flashbang that you need to watch out. You can interrupt it as well, but you will dodge it if you face away from it. Pretty hard to notice, but you got 5 people in your team to look out for stuff. So if you see Flashbang, face away from the raid that's ranged, but you can interrupt it too. Normally if you got good AoE, you shouldn't even have to worry about all these things, as long as the healers die first. Now to skip this last mob, the Mage will pull, he will run through, he will blink, and then when he has gotten the aggro, you move through and go to the other side, and when we're through, the Mage will pop Invis and ads will go back, and we're through, because we have enough enemies killed. And then we just go on the last boss. Pretty straightforward here again. We wait a little bit extra here so we can pre-pot. We want to make sure we pre-pot. Then we have it in. Pop Time Warp again and just nuke the ad. The Warlock can do an extra trick here if you have a Warlock, that you can put your summoning circle on the ground, and when you get dropped off the edge as a Warlock, you can just port back. Like as you can see, the Warlock has his portal on right at the edge, so we can just portal back. Remember, if you get lifted off by an ad, if you get picked up by an ad, you can still DPS.